quick disclaimer. I don't think I've ever actually drawn a snail before. If this is terrible, don't judge me. We are painting a snail today. Look how fast I'm moving. Similar to the last painting we started, we had a canvas just lying around. So I grabbed it, wiped off the dust, and went to town. This particular one is for Strider for her room upstairs. She's got a spot right above the bed. That would be perfect. Before I even started, I kind of had a general rough idea of what I wanted. Like in my head, I had a visual, right? I want the snail on the far, far, far right side. That gives me plenty of room to show this sort of blossoming garden of sunflowers that he's leaving in his wake. So I don't think I actually need to sketch out the sunflowers and the garden and all the stuff behind him, because I think I'm just going to be loosey-goosey about that. But the snail in particular, it's a little out of my comfort zone, so I'm definitely going to sketch him with pencil first. I don't remember shooting this footage. Actually, it's a good time to pause it and talk to you guys about color palettes just for a second. Look at all these colors available. I mean, that's amazing, right? No, it's absolutely horrible, and I'm gonna try to explain. So some of you guys might know this, but pre-YouTube, I was a designer. That's what I did for a living. And as a designer, you are given so many limitations, and I adore limitations. Just stay with me here. Imagine an unlimited size canvas with an unlimited array of colors at your disposal. Literally any color you want. This is a nightmare scenario for me. With design, you're given so many limitations. You have to fit these screens. It has to follow recognized patterns. It has to adhere to branding guidelines. And by the end of it, you've whittled down this impossibly giant task to something that's super manageable. It's these types of limitations that I look for in like literally everything that I do. Woodworking, it doesn't matter. It's such a helpful crutch, particularly when you're just starting out doing a thing. Oh, pull cues, they're the same, by the way. Here's the size and the weight and the rough dimensions, but beyond that, go nuts. So when I started painting, I noticed the exact same problem, just too many choices. So I whittled it down to the core basic colors. Mars Black, Burnt Umber. I use a lot of burnt umber, so I bought more burnt umber. Burnt Sienna. Yellow. I think this is primary yellow, but I ran out and I couldn't find it again, so I got another version. And then that one ran out. I couldn't find that one again, so I got another version. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't notice a huge difference, so I'm just gonna call this yellow. Cadmium Orange. Primary blue, phthalo green. By the way, in case you didn't know, this is how you spell phthalo. Light green permanent. Primary red, alizarin crimson. Alizarin? I don't know. Dioxazine purple, which by the way, I've never even opened before. And titanium white, which seems to run out. So I bought this big bottle. But the big bottle is terrible, so I bought another small tube. As a total noob beginner, mixing colors still very much intimidates me. But I've noticed that as I keep doing it, it feels way more approachable. It's hard to explain. It feels almost more common sense than I was anticipating. So I'm going to try adding how I mix these colors from my 12 tubes of paint. I'm not sure if having these recipes in the top left corner of the video will be confusing or super awesome, but either way, I'm gonna give it a shot. So the room that this painting is going to go in is like bright blue. Like guys, it's the brightest, bluest room ever. It's basically just blue and white. And if you look on a color wheel, you'll notice that the complementary color, the one that's directly opposite of blue, it lands like in the orange and yellow area. So I am gonna try to make the majority of this painting yellowish, orangish. So for the sky, I'm gonna attempt a cloudy orange sunset. I am painting the ground practically straight black because I'm thinking it would be backlit from the setting sun. It's also more graphic this way. Like the composition is like perfectly perpendicular from the side. It's almost like a two-dimensional video game like Super Mario Brothers or something, or like a Wes Anderson film. So I feel like having a jet black ground would look pretty cool. Man, I still very much need to learn how to like more gracefully bleed colors into each other. I'm pretty sure water is involved in some capacity, but beyond that, dude, I have no clue. Future Eddie, we need to research this. Yeah, this color, it's wrong. And I realize it like practically immediately. I do keep painting though, because my hope is once most of it is, eventually fixed and covered by a better layer later, It'll make the sky a bit more dynamic. To try and fix it, I add more burnt umber, and it's still very wrong. So instead, I just scrap the entire paint blob and start completely over. And the color that I eventually land on is nowhere near what I thought it would look like in my head, but I still really like this color, so I keep going. Do you guys see the really cool, really beautiful flecks of blue? It's a total accident. It wasn't mixed completely on my palette, and some of the pure blue made it onto my paintbrush instead of getting mixed into the blob. And I love it so much. It's like one of my favorite things ever. So I'm making a mental note to try and incorporate that, like that technique, if that's such a thing, later. Now I'm just making this same tone just a little darker to try and add some depth to the clouds and the shapes and the sky. All right, with the sky done, it's snail time. Guys, right off the bat, I'm deeply uncomfortable. This is so out of my comfort zone. It's too small. It's too detailed. My style is messy, and I can't really be messy when it's this small. I feel like it's more forced and it's muddy. Like, how do you add texture? This just feels wrong using a single color as the texture. But what can you do? You just gotta keep going forward and make a mental note to try to improve. Adding shadows helping a little bit, but I'm still not too stoked on this snail. Switching to the shell, I'm thinking step one is to find a good base color and then just cover the entire thing. I do know that snails have these like really beautiful ridges on their shells. I don't know if they're ridges or what they're called, but you know, they radiate outward. So I'm gonna attempt to like use really loosey-goosey, sketchy brush strokes to try and emulate it. It's probably hard to tell in the video, but around this point, I am so beyond frustrated. Maybe like adding highlights, some shadows, some dirt, redoing the base color here and there. Basically, I'm just trying to get to a happy place, but also attempting to not make the whole snail just look dirty and muddy. After like another 20 minutes of snail painting off camera, I was finally happy enough to move on to the grass. My strategy here is to not think. No more thinking. I'm over the snail. I just want to do just blobs of green. I'm just gonna grab 3 green shades, right? There's a mid-tone, highlights of the grass, and then the shadows in the grass. That's it. One thing I did notice at this point though was adding the tiny blades of grass in front of the snail made me like the snail more. I have no idea why. Maybe it just gave the snail context. It made it seem like it was actually in the painting, if that makes any sense. For the actual sunflowers themselves, I'm definitely going more orange, for better or worse. My thought is the sun is setting and the world is all orangey. I bet the sunflowers would also be orangey. That's just science. Oh yeah, I remember this. This is the part where I totally set up my camera and didn't press the record button. My bad. For the sunflower shadow, I used this color. And for the center, I used this color. And here I am attempting highlights. The color's wrong. It's so wrong. It doesn't make any sense in the context of like a backlit sunset. It's too neon, it's too bright and weird. And for some reason, I found myself really loving it anyway. Like, it's probably one of my favorite parts of this picture, and it was a complete accident. So next, I'm using basically just straight orange from the tube on a mostly dry brush. I'm just trying to add more color for depth and to like kind of blend everything together to make everything sort of talk to each other. It's around this part where I actually step back from the painting and start liking what I'm seeing. For me personally, it's really hard to remind myself that progress isn't overnight, and I should just be stoked with how I'm doing at the time, you know? What I always do is I focus on what I perceive as the end final goal, right? I see the end game of being a super competent painter with complete, absolute control over my craft, and every single time that I do a thing and it's not that end goal, I get super frustrated, and I'm sure that's, you know, not healthy. And the final thing that I need to add before I call this bad boy finished is a root system for all of the flowers. Dude, I have no clue what roots actually look like, what like roots in soil would look like, but I do have memories of my old planted fish tank, and it had a root system that I could see in the bottom. So that's kind of what I'm going off of. I'm using basically just one color, making it super wishy-washy and dry on my brush and going for it. All in all, I'm super happy with the painting. Although either way, I never really spend too much time dwelling on it. It's on to the next. Too busy thinking about the next painting. All right, at this point, I think that I'm pretty happy with calling this finished. I took a long hiatus because of cedar fever. Just allergies drove me bonkers, and then I decided to grind it out and finish it today. I had a lot of fun. I try to tell myself to learn something from every single painting, right? And just for, you know, growing as a human and as an artist. I'm not completely sure what the takeaway is here. I don't like details at all. I like being messy, for sure. It's more fun, for better or worse, I don't know. Right now, Strider is out with the beeps. I think now is a good time to go put it up in the upstairs room. Let's see how it looks. So all three of us have our own like recharge areas. Like the castle is the Beebs. I have a room upstairs, and Strider has recently redecorated the old train time room for her sanctuary. And this is gonna go right above the bed in there. Okay, I might have to put the camera down. It goes right there. Oh my gosh, dude, she's going to love it. Dude, it looks so good in this space. Woo! Well guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Please, as always, let me know in the comments if you're liking this new painting content and if I should continue. All right guys, I'm out.